Is it all hazy and horrible out there?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Uh,
This is bad.
I'm gonna do this thing. We can kind of chat. I'll edit out any kind of personal stuff. It'll just be kind of about
Sure.
your work or whatever. And so don't feel free to talk. And
Okay.
I'm teaching some courses. One is a basic illustration course, and the other one is called Fine Art of Illustration, right? Which is where you
Yeah.
kind of fit in because you mainly what you do is you're mainly doing gallery work, but you've also kind of dipped your toes in commercial work to make money, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also, I find it a really interesting exercise that when I start making fine artwork, I don't know where it's going to end up. Whereas if you're doing an illustration for somebody, you have to communicate an idea clearly. And I think it's almost like doing push-ups. It's just like a different way of figuring out how you tell a story and whether you can or not tell it clearly. They're different things. You have to know that they're different things, but I find it to be, like a beneficial part of what I can do.
So you're talking about the idea of illustration. The illustration work you do is sort of like a way of doing kind of visual acrobatic conceptual thinking, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, it's just like a different way of articulating ideas and having the ability to take a problem and turn it into something that somebody will clearly understand instead of abstract. I mean, good art usually is open-ended, and when it you complete it in a way, like you make like the artist makes a work, and then the person looking at it finishes it.
Right.
Whereas in illustration, you make something, but it's very important that it communicates an idea. So they're different things, and they're important in their own ways.
Well, I first saw your work when I was living in Toronto, and guess you had just graduated. I mean, it was like I forget when it was. Was it 2004 or something like that, or 2005?
2000, and I graduated in 2002, and then
so I think I saw your work in 2003, and I was really blown away by it. And when I look at work, I actually kind of don't like. I really don't like most stuff that's done for the purpose of illustration, and I didn't see yourself as illustration, but I thought your work was kind of in this territory, which I really like, which is it's like visual narrative, but it's not subjugating itself to an article or whatever.
I mean, I've always been drawing, but I didn't get to illustration until so I think even I was out of college, and it was just people usually come to my illustration through the fine art. So because art directors are always looking at everything the same way that most people involved in culture are, they find the work and they think, oh, I can use this if I just, I mean, a good art director will take something that they know you can make and get you to do it in the right way. And they're very clear and they see the potential and they don't micromanage. And, I have worked with good art directors that will make me do things that I didn't know I wanted to make, but work out really well. The worst is when they don't know what they want, and then they try to make you do 10 different things, and then they don't actually want you to do the thing that you're good at making, but something else. And in a way, it's a collaboration. And as an artist, it's your responsibility to do the things that you're going to do. In illustration, it's your job to work well and get the client what they want or what they're happy with in a way that also fits in your work. And you just have to know that they're different worlds and they work differently, and that's fine.
Creatively, like the space that you occupy in this thing is a very good place, and it's like there's a history of people who have done that. Are you familiar with the work of well, for instance, Fallon? I'm not equating the two of you, but like for instance, he had a kind of an aesthetic universe that he occupied, and then then art directors would pull him into their universe,
Yeah.
right? So like I think it's really interesting. I mean, I'm really happy that we're talking because you're a really great example of somebody who does this kind of thing and maintains their kind of their fine art, the dignity in it. So, can I?
But I also think it's changed a lot in even the last 10, 15 years. I mean, I don't know how you see it, but before it used to be art or illustration,
Right.
or even in photography as well. It was like art photography and then editorial photography. And now it's back and forth. Like, John Baldessari will do the cover of a fashion magazine, and it just goes back and forth in a way that nobody cares anymore. Like, nobody's embarrassed by having your music in a car commercial, and just people do everything going forward, and you try to make it the best thing that you can.
Right.
But there isn't an embarrassment about appearing in a magazine and doing illustration or having your work in a commercial context.
Yeah, good point. Really good point. I mean, it's like, there's sort of different worlds. There's sort of different levels of art directing, and I think what you're talking about is like really inspired art direction, and that's been going on for many years. But now it's like really a thing, right? And you're working for really great people at the Times, and but how much?
But I also only do a handful of illustrations every once in a while, so it's not like that's my main gig. And if it had to be, then it would be a different world. Like it's a challenge I like doing. It pays reasonably well for the amount of work that's involved, and it's clean and it's done, and it's just like in a way it's a pure process. They know what they want. I know what I can give them. Yeah. Generally, the people I work with we have a good working relationship, and it's just easy. And a lot of things in the world are messy, but working with a decent art director is usually the straightforward exchange.
How much work? How much work do you do in the commercial realm? Like,
it comes and goes. There was years where I would do it all the time, and I think it's because people see if the work shows up in Oprah, and they're like, "Oh, that guy
on Oprah."
Well, in Oprah, the magazine.
Oh, Oprah, the magazine. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then people see me doing one thing, and they'll want more of that thing. Right. But I haven't done a huge amount of illustration.
Right.
A couple times a year, maybe. I mean, say that for average.
Oh, really? That little? Okay. Yeah. Well, that was actually my impression. Also, is that you might do a job a month or something like that. It seems like a kind of an avocation for you. But
yeah.
But
there's also there's other projects. Like, I just did a project with a musician that lasted a couple of years actually, where he saw my work and he really wanted something for his music, and we kind of figured out what it was going to be together. So in a way, he was the art director, and we ended up with this series of works that I'm really proud of, but it would never have happened without his opinion. And it started out with me sending him the things that I liked that looked nothing like my work, and then he just nudged me towards making something that is original. It encompasses the things that I like about other people's work, but it feels like my work. But it was years of, slow back and forth. It was years of work figuring it out. Mm. And collaborations like that are really, once in a while, they're really meaningful, because they take you to a place that you wouldn't have gotten to on your own. And you just have to be open to people's criticisms about what they see in your work and what's good about it and what's not good about it.
If the stuff that you were doing when I met you, when you had just graduated from art school, was the way it looked, you must have been kind of on fire in high school, like before.
Yeah, I mean, both my parents are artists, so I was always around. And I went to just a totally regular high school, and I played sports, and I did, it wasn't a great art department, but it wasn't bad. It was just, that's totally average. Uh-huh. So it was just doing your own thing. Mm. And because I was exposed to a lot of art my whole life, it was an interest. And yeah, I did these Peter Beard type journals all through high school. So I was just like, everything I did went in them. And yeah, I was just thinking back, like the access to information, like you'd see like one magazine article, and that was the only thing that was out there, and the books were from Japan, and they're like $600, and it's inaccessible. And It was before the internet had any of the sort of the images up. So finding small things in the world that you related to was a totally different experience. But yeah, Peter Beard was one, and the obvious things that everybody likes, I like them too. But yeah, I just spent all my time making these books. But then I studied photography, so I didn't study painting or drawing at all. My BFA is in
Uh,
photography.
was the photography also inspired by Peter Beard? I mean, he was a
No,
photographer.
well, not strictly. No, my photography was more collaging negatives or building my own pinhole cameras. So it's
Hmm.
very manual and process based.
Hmm.
So it's like, what could I use? How can I use film as material to collage?
Hmm.
Or what can I do with film as or the camera as a material to bend light and long exposures,
Hmm.
more than what is this composition or how do I light a scene.
So Joel Peter Whitkin, was he a thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, my dad had his books, and I liked his works a lot. And Toronto actually had some of his works up when I was in college. One of the galleries there
Hmm.
had them, and I still remember that they were coated in caustic, which gave them this really funny sort of
Oh,
textile surface.
oh, I never
So
saw.
like,
I never seen an original. I didn't know that. So, but they were actually worked. They were worked prints, right? He worked on top of prints.
they're gelatin silver prints, and they're just flat prints. But I think what he did is he put wax on it and buffed the wax. Like it gives it this physical surface that is really quite beautiful.
Right.
But like it's like a skin or flesh or something. It becomes a body more than it would otherwise.
So you worked with photography, but you also worked with collage, right? You started doing kind of these collage things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing collage, all like it goes back to the books because the books would have collages in them. And then once I graduated, I couldn't do everything in the books before because the only option is to take a picture and print it, which was my thesis show, which I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, you really sense that you have to bring things outside of your books to make a living as an artist because you need something to sell to people.
Right.
And I made the drawings, but then I also made the collages, and they just one thing always leads to the next.
And now it's. I mean, I'm sure you do all of it now, but now it's pretty much come down to painting. I mean, that's pretty much.
Painting, I do collage, and there's other, but yeah, mostly I haven't done any like strictly photo-based works in a while.
Uh-huh.
The last one I did like that was probably 10 years ago, where it was I made digital images that then I printed as cyanotypes. So it's collage and then brought back out as cyanotypes.
Oh,
So
really?
it's the same. It's like collage, but using photography and then using the history of photography.
I'd like to show the book that you were doing, the children's book that you sent me, which was mind blowing. I think the images.
Thanks.
Of that, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It actually, they're actually publishing it.
Who's publishing it?
Enchanted Lion.
Oh, great! Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. But so will it be like 200 pages?
I sent her the book, and most people, I made that book just wanting to make it the way it is and not knowing anything about the commercial children's book world. And I sent it to a bunch of people, and they're like, "This is beautiful, but we can only do 24 or 32 pages." Or what? Like, it's very strict and conservative. And some people are like, "Kids won't like this. It's not cute enough." And so there's all these funny comments about what it should be or what people think kids have the capacity to understand or to like. And it's very conservative and narrow in a way. So I was happy to find this publisher that does slightly weird things, and she liked it. She said some of the pages could probably work better as diptychs, and it doesn't have to be all single pages. But other than sequencing, I'm pretty. It's staying the length it is. It might be sequenced differently instead of one picture per spread.
I think her Enchanted Lion is the only. That's the only house I can think of that would do it, and it's a weird thing with children's books. It's so monolithic, Your mom and dad have agreed to do something, but they don't sound super excited about it, which I really understand. But I just love her work and your father's work. I love your whole family. And apparently, your brother makes pictures also. So it's like it's a really amazing. It's an amazing little brew of family art, and I'd like to just kind of encapsulate it. Would you talk a little bit about the way your mom's embroideries worked in the beginning? Like that, I remember you saying that they were actually yours and your brother's kids' drawings that she was working with, right?
Yeah, so the way my mom's worked is that she's always saved the pencil drawings and marker drawings and kids drawings that me and my brother did, but she would use them as source material. So in the beginning, I think she just colored them her own way and left them as they are. But then more and more, she took them and overlaid them and um, made them transparent and just used them as library of marks more than images. And then sometimes she would use them images and collage them together. So she would use them as source material for texture. And then sometimes she would color them faithfully. Sometimes she would make her own color palettes for them. It's just, I think it was just like a big pool of raw material. And she used art drawings, but she also used my father's sculptures, and she also used like folk motifs from printed materials, and then she would just translate everything back into her work.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And your dad mainly sculpts, right? His thing is like this.
He does. He paints, and he does collages, and he's done some other things. But I think right now he's mostly painting. But for most of his career, I would say he's been a sculptor.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So your brother's work is kind of interesting. Also, it seems like you and your family have a kind of a surrealist, slightly demented artistic gene going on. A lot of the students that I work with, they don't come from. I mean, most of them do not come from artistic families. You know, they just come simply people who decide I'm going to make art and it's going to be illustration. So it's really wonderful to meet people like you and hopefully your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how you end up where you are. For a long time, I didn't think I was going to be an artist. I was interested in industrial design. You know, it would be cool to design a running shoe and a mountain bike because it's thinking with your eyes, but it's also mechanical, which I've been interested in. And then I don't know, one step at a time, you get sucked back in, and you end up, you know, spending your life drawing, which isn't so bad.
So kind of a final question is this: as an artist, and you're a father, and you have a life, right? So what is it like to exhibit? What is it like to kind of be in the world of art for you? I know that's a very broad question,
yeah.
But I think for the kind of people I'm teaching, you know, a lot of them are really practical. They think about stuff like this, you know, which obviously you can't really think about it because if you do it, you do it. If you don't do it, you don't do it. The mechanics of being a visual artist. What can you talk a little bit about that?
It usually works that everybody works differently. Some people do really well knowing that they have a deadline and they work for it and they get it done and they have a show. I like to be making work all the time. I like to make 5 times more work than I will need, and then I will select that. Like I will go through that work and sequence it and select it and say something with things that I have. Ideally, you have things in the future that you know are coming up that you're working towards. Sometimes people want to when I do collages, people are like, "Oh, we really love your collages. Don't do any more drawings." And when I do drawings, people are like, "Why do you do collages? Your drawings are better." So it's always like you have to have some sense of independence. But you know, I've also been stubborn over the years where I didn't listen to certain kinds of advice that I should have. It's you find things out along the way, and you try to adjust for the future going forward. But I don't know. I don't know if there's any clean way of summing it up. You do the work, and basically the more people see it, the better your chances are of going somewhere with it. And it's a job, and there's part of it that's creative, but then there's part of it where you have to answer emails and do the other stuff.
Okay.
All right. Nice to talk to you. Say hi to Wayne.
Yeah. Bye-bye. See ya.
Okay. Bye.